Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Strong Collectors Podcast. I'm your host, Dakota, here with my co-host, Jordan. And today, by popular demand and special request from Ryan Ting himself from Marvel Legends team, we're going to do a conclusion to the Giant Man Haslab campaign. Now, you may be saying, isn't this like several months late? And you know, I think it worked out well because we just got the reveals, and actually Jordan has in hand the new 2-pack of Wasp and Giant Man. So we'll kind of wrap that in with this, and maybe we'll do a little speculating on anything else that could still be coming. So,
right.
Jordan, since you're the one that actually backed the Haslab, I'll kind of let you kind of tell us why you backed it. And
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is that, and you and I talked about this before, I liked the lower price point for a Haslab. I think that's a great idea, and we've talked about this before. You know, it makes sense for a Galactus, even a Sentinel, but we've talked about that where it's like, you almost want Galactus to be bigger than your Sentinel, I think. So I'm okay with making them a little less and doing some different things. Not everyone has to be a, $500 purchase. So I was excited about that, and I really liked the look of the Giant Man. I always admired the Toy Biz one. I know that you've had that one, but I was like, I think it's time I got my own Haslab in the collection here. So I like that concept, and I thought they were doing a lot of cool things with it. And I'm pretty excited about the 2-pack they put out. I know there were some people saying they would have rather had that included or something, but personally I think it works because I wanted that Wasp, and chances are if you wanted Wasp, you'd want a Giant Man, or you'd want that one to go with your Giant Man. I know that was their whole thought process, too, behind not necessarily locking a bunch of figures behind the Haslab paywall, which I'm okay with, too. I mean, I think there's a fun part of getting the figures with the Haslab, but I do know that's kind of a bummer as well. So I even liked that was part of the campaign, and I thought that was cool.
So it was $199. Do you remember if you had to pay shipping on top of that since you're not a Pulse member? Because I thought there was if you spent
by that
over
time I had left the fold of Hasbro Pulse, Dakota, at that point in my life.
Do you know off the top of your head how much the total ended up being for you?
It was probably, like with tax, shipping, probably more, because what was it, $199? So probably more in the like $230 range, more or less.
Yeah.
Which
I mean,
okay.
People had mentioned during the campaign that the Toy Biz Build-A-Figure was going for about that same price. Like, not quite that much, but like you're going to pay $150 for that.
Around $200. Yeah, it could be around $200. So, yeah, I thought that one made sense, and I think that's a cool one because you can do a lot more of those, like, scaling photos. Like, of course, now that you got the small Giant Man, I think it'd be fun to set up some cool shots with the small one, the bigger one.
True.
We get your way, Dakota, we're going to have that 12-inch one eventually, so,
I hope.
Keep it coming.
So, but towards the end of the campaign, we didn't quite back it completely. Did that kind of sway you? Were you tempted to like pull out? You're like, oh shoot, this isn't going to be fully funded, like all unlocks, or did you care about the unlocks as much?
To me, the unlocks were, it didn't really incentivize me very much either way, because we got the zombie head, right? Face?
Yes. Yep.
But we did not get the scroll head.
Right. Which,
again, even with the other ones, like, even on Galactus, it's like the Doom head is kind of cool, but I mean, you can testify to that. You're really never going to display them with Doom's head.
Yeah. I thought the heralds were super important, but then you could have put those out later on, which I think people probably would have preferred because a lot of people, I think, liked Morg, but then he was locked behind a Galactus, but I think a lot of people wanted Galactus too, so maybe that wasn't as much of an issue.
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, it didn't really, I was like, whatever, whether the tiers, I mean, if they had something that, they'd thrown Jarvis in there like I predicted, that might have been a little different. But, like I said, I was okay with that, where it's almost like, it's a little cheaper, you're basically paying for the figure, and then if you get the tiers, it's kind of like a bonus, rather than saying, well, it's built in, you're paying for 4 figures, and it's like, do I really need all these other figures?
True.
Or do I even want all of them? And
I think a lot of people
into the multi-pack trap where you're...
Yeah, because a lot of people with Galactus probably already had that Silver Surfer from Walgreens. So they're probably like, this tier doesn't really do much for me, even though I like the Haslab Silver Surfer better than the Walgreens one. But I mean, other people, you just don't need that character again. So I totally see it. And I think I am more in the camp of I would rather see figures released later in accompaniment to what's coming with a Haslab versus having to pay extra on the Haslab. And I don't know, it doesn't seem like that could work every time, because like with the Engine of Vengeance, I think the selling points were more the tiers than the actual Hell Charger. Just because I don't think that was quite as popular of a character for fans as like Mephisto was, where like people have said like they would pay for like a Mephisto Haslab where he's bigger with a throne and flame effects and all that. I don't know if I'm in that camp, but I see where that would help him, but Giant Man
and the fact that it was a vehicle, it wasn't really a character.
Right.
It obviously wasn't a character, so it's like then you kind of need to pad it out with characters. Where if the focus is the character, then the rest can kind of be, to me, like accessories, add-ons. It's really not like I need 3 figures. I don't know. So I actually don't mind that they had these be separate from the Giant Man, and I'm really excited to get it. I know they've been releasing more of like the art. Remember, they had the art voting. I think they released the official art.
Was that the one that you voted for?
I don't think it was. I think I voted for like the side profile. I thought looked kind of cool.
Okay.
But I think that one looks cool too, with kind of the whole team assembled. That could be a fun, backdrop. Put it up with everybody. So
yeah, I still have my box for Galactus that I'll put up as a poster whenever I have a wall to put it on. But I did not back Giant Man, and my issue was it was too big. I liked the pictures that they had for the campaign, but like I'm not at that level of taking pictures or things like that, because like even my Galactus, you can see on the top shelf in the picture back here, it's like Morg is up to his kneecap, and like Giant Man's not as big as Galactus, but he's that big.
Yeah.
And to me, like, it's just like I'm gonna have to have him like squished down even more so than I've already got the Toy Biz one in that shelf.
You can't even see his head right now. Right. He might as well be headless. You could have sold the head.
So for me, I would have paid the same price as what they had on the Haslab for, like, I don't want to say a 12-inch Giant Man because that'd be way too expensive, but like, I don't know, a little more than 12 inches, because I think that for me scales better.
What about 18?
I probably would have paid it, honestly. $200 for a 18-inch Giant Man, which I know is crazy.
But well, I see what you're saying, because I do get it. I think I'm glad they scaled them down a bit, and that part I liked. If they'd said he's as tall as Galactus, I probably would have been less inclined, to be honest. I agree. I think it would have been cooler to have them not as giant. Maybe that sounds paradoxical,
right?
But I also see where, a lot of people probably would have been like, what the heck? He's an 18-inch figure. Like, he's a Giant Man. I'm not paying $200 for that.
Yeah.
So
then you probably would have had to put like Wasp or something in the campaign as well.
Yeah. So I think that was a bit of a tricky character to figure out how they were going to do it. But ultimately, I really liked how it looked. And I think all the photos I've seen look pretty sweet.
Yeah, and I think
maybe that's part of my FOMO of just never having Giant Man. Or you always had more of the cool big Build-A-Figures when we were kids, so I always was somehow building crappy ones like Mojo for some reason.
Yeah.
You got like Sentinel, Galactus, and Did you?
No, I didn't get Galactus until you got him. I never had anything from Giant Man, but I had
Didn't you
Apocalypse.
have Galactus when we were kids?
No, he was one that I always wanted, but I didn't get him until you picked him up for me that one time and de-smoked him, I think.
Yeah, I had to do some fumigating. Well, maybe I was just so jealous about the Sentinel that it's like, I want this one. So
I mean, it works well because you don't have a Haslab already. Like, you don't have the Sentinel or the Galactus. So you've got to have everybody's got to have a Haslab, I think. It's just too fun.
You got to have one.
And that's, that kind of brings me into another issue that I'm curious to see how they address, or if they ever do, or if it's just like more, is how many giant figures can a collector have until they run out of space, which I was saying during the campaign too, because if I didn't have Galactus, I probably would, like, I could throw Giant Man up on that top shelf and maybe I wouldn't have cared as much, but if you've got Giant Man, Galactus, a Sentinel. If they're going to do maybe a Fin Fang Foom this year, I don't know. Maybe we'll do another episode speculating that. That's a lot of space taken up by 4 figures. And especially if you're doing other lines, like if you're getting a Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain type thing, you've got the Thunder Tank. Legion's Trolls.
Real estate.
If you got Unicron, all the other Haslab.
Spawn statues.
Where is this all going to go? And
that's why Todd's going digital, dude. It takes up no space.
Marvel Legends, Ryan, if you're watching this as the conclusion, please
never
don't do digital.
Never do NFTs.
let's stick to physical figures and not NFTs. Yeah, I still don't understand it, but he's trucking along forward with it. So I don't know. Anyway,
to all that to say, yes, I'm very excited to get Giant Man. I'm stoked to see it, and I think the 2-pack just makes me even more hopeful for putting them all together and getting some sweet scenes together.
Yeah, I agree. So let us know in the comments, did you order Giant Man? Are you experiencing some FOMO now that you passed and you're wishing you had him? Because I think, all right, I was going to wrap it up. I decided not to. We made our episode talking about should you buy an extra Giant Man for speculating the market down the road. I think we're going to see a better secondary market on Giant Man than we'd see on Galactus, because the numbers are just so much lower on Giant Man. There's going to be way less out in circulation.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to bode well for people wanting to, if they did buy an extra, to sell. Like I know some of our listeners bought 3 because they wanted to have 1 for each head, so maybe they dropped it down to 2.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think the possibility of selling 1 is going to be a lot better than because we bought a Galactus to flip or trade later on down the road and
to pay for our Galactus,
and he's just getting dusty because he's not really worth selling right now. So I think you're going to have a better return. Not that you're going to sell him.
My mom's house.
Is he?
Hopefully she does not list him in the groups for cheap.
Right. But I think...
But once he's in the MCU, dude...
I hope so. That was kind of our thought.
Unless he's a space cloud.
Oh, if he's a space cloud, that's going to screw us. But, all right. So I think that's all I've got to say on Giant Man. Leave us a comment down below. Did you buy him? You sad that you missed out on him. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And stay strong.
I was learning, dude?
Yeah.
Much like a young boy... When I was exploring my body, I am now exploring the body of Mezco.
That'll be post-credits, baby.
Yeah, you got that on audio.
Hell. I'm in hell.
I'm in hell. You're right, and you're the devil.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode